Welcome back, guys. So I wanted to just provide some valuable information early on, just to let you guys know I'm not going to be showing charts right off the gate because there's a lot of things that have nothing to do with actually sitting and trading that are going to provide a lot of value for you starting out. One of my favorite things, as I mentioned previously, is really focusing on risk management. Risk management is a piece that is more on the unsexy side of what we come to think of in trading, right? Nobody wants to really talk about it. Most people just want to get down to the strategies and bet the farm on one setup that wins 98% of the time or whatever it may be. But the real truth is when you start digging into trading and really learning from some of the people who've come before you, you start to realize that that's the novice's approach. And what I mean mostly about that is, you digging into market wizards, you do some of Mark Douglas's work. I believe it's Trading for a Living, and there's the Disciplined Trader. That's one of my favorites personally. Um, and you start going into YouTube, you start going into different blogs, and you start to see these patterns emerge. Even George Soros, one of my favorite traders, and one of the guys who got me hooked early on, reading The Alchemy of Finance, right? And you start to see that these guys have strike rates, meaning that they're right um, a certain percentage amount of the time. And I believe his was around 30%. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I want to make sure that my facts are on point and everything. But that really stuck with me. So this is coming into trading. I was a baseball player before that, right? And in baseball, if you're able to hit, 4 out of 10 times, get a hit, get on base, you have a 400 you're batting 400 batting average. So, and that's monumental level of consistency and ability, right? Ted Williams type thing. But I think that people really miss probability, and they don't understand exactly how powerful probability can be, even if your strike rate isn't extremely high. And so, coupled with that, strongly coupled with that statement, is the ability to risk manage effectively. If you're not able to risk manage effectively, it's not going to work out for you if you're only winning 30% of the time. The reason that Soros was able to do the 30% of the time and still win big was because he was able to bank large profits on his winners, and he was able to cut his losses short. So we're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk about price targets. We're going to talk about things that I've learned to bulletproof your trade, as they call it in IP, where I first learned a lot of this lingo. IP is Infinite Prosperity. Their Forex training course that I took, and I'm a platinum member still there. But that's just kind of like the tip of the iceberg, right? How do you get your mind wrapped around probability and risk management? I was taught to risk manage at 1% when trading Forex, and it's been fruitful for me. The only problem, and I think the big problem that a lot of people who are going to be watching this is you don't have a ton of capital to trade. And when you don't have a ton of capital to trade, you start to second guess your strategies. You start to second guess how quickly you're going to be able to really be a full-time trader and things like that. So it looks different for different people. For me, it turned into me blowing an account, not in Forex, but blowing an options trading account. So with options, you're able to use leverage and kind of get some big wins with not a lot of money for the contracts. And I had a really good streak when I first went independent, a really good streak. And it was followed by some, negative streaks. But when I looked at my numbers, I actually was not down. I was pretty much breaking even. So I don't know if anybody else relates to this, but what ended up eating my account up was paying expenses. So I was using my trading account not only to trade, but I was also living off of it. And those two things combined, instability in my trading, so win one, lose one, and breaking even, pretty much being at 500 on my trading, ended up being a negative because I had to spend money to live. Right? You got to pay rent, you got to pay your bills. They don't. That doesn't change just because you're uh, acquiring a skill. You're still gonna have to do that. So for me, it turned into e-commerce. It turned into learning a little bit more about how to make money online passively and digging into those things, right? So I just kind of wanted to share the entirety of that because not everybody has a ton of capital to throw at this right out the bat, off the bat, and most people don't. So I'm going to kind of carve that out. But anyways, man, before we even dig into that, I do want to talk about trading first, and then we'll talk about actually funding your account and different ways to do that. But when we're talking trading, man, that risk management piece is so big. It is most overlooked, underappreciated part, right? So there's a risk management, and there's also a percentage of your batting percentage is what I want to call it, right? So your strike rate. I'm sorry. So your strike rate. How often are you right? Are you able to let your winners run to certain levels and then have the discipline to either say, all right, I need to get out immediately, or I'm going to keep moving and I'm going to let it keep running, but I'm going to watch it and make sure that it, when it does turn around, so to speak, I'm not being greedy. So that right there is psychological as hell, and it's a tough part to master. I struggled with it with options. I've never really had too much struggle with it with Forex because a lot of those were targeted plays. So anyways, I'll be coming back with the next video. We're going to dig a little bit deeper even still, and we'll get to the charts eventually here. But I just want everybody out there, if you only take that away from this and you don't subscribe to the channel or anything, man, just realize that this trading stuff is really boiling down to your strike rate and risk management. All right, y'all have a good one.